Hi and welcome to Demon Questions from OnMaths, where we look at the more challenging GCSE maths questions. Enjoy! The way I structure this is there's 20 marks on each Demon paper. We're either doing non-calculator or calculator, higher or foundation. And within those 20 marks, I've evenly distributed the topics and I've evenly distributed the grades. So it starts at a low grade and gets higher. I've also put the grade boundaries on so you can roughly estimate whereabouts you are. I hope you enjoy. Thank you. Okay, so this question looks a little bit complicated, in fact very complicated, but whenever you have this type of question where you've got different categories of people or items, the best method and the clearest method is to draw a quick two-way table, which I'm going to do now. So I'm going to draw a quick two-way table, and the options for the people are either they are male or they are female. We'll add a total column or a total row, and they either do maths, English, science, and again I'll add a total as well. Okay, so I can add some lines in as well. In fact, let's do a different colour to make it a bit clearer. Okay, the absolute total is 123. Okay, and we just go through and fill in the bits we do know. So 57 of the students are female, so 57 females. 15 of the 36 students who went to English were male, so there's 36 students who went to English, and 15 of them were male. 33 students went to science, and 29 males went to maths. So 29 males went to maths. Okay, what we asked for, so we're looking for the females who went to science. So if I highlight that, so females who went to science. So we're looking for this one here. Okay, so what you can do with this question is just try and fill out the bits that you can, right? So I'm going to start off with this top one here. Okay, and there's different ways of doing this. Now, if there's 123 students in total and 57 of them are female, then 66 of them will be male. Okay, because these two here have to add up to 123. Then if there's 66 males in total and 29 of them went to maths and 15 of them went to English, then that leaves 22 who went to science. And if there's 22 males who went to science and there's 33 people in total who went to science, then there's going to be 11 females who went to science. Now there's different ways of doing this question, and actually you didn't need to do a two-way table for this question. It's just a lot easier to check your answer, and I find it a lot quicker. So if you have this type of question, a two-way table is probably the way to go. Okay, so this question is a little bit more complicated than it first seems. So we've got Adrian, Ben and Charlie, and they share some sweets in the ratio of 6 to 3 to 8. And it says that Charlie got 12 more sweets than Adrian. Well, first of all, let's have a look and see how many more parts that Charlie... Ooh. Always cross my L's for some reason. Charlie got more than Adrian. Okay, so he got 8 take away 6 is 2. So he got 2 more parts. And so let's have a look and see what one part is worth. So those 2 parts equates to 12 more sweets. So we do 12 divided by 2, 6. So each part is worth 6 sweets. And it says work out the total amount of sweets. So we need to work out how many parts there are in total. So we do 6 plus 3 plus 8. Now I know 6 plus 8 is 14, plus 3 is 17. So we've got 17 parts in total. Each of them is worth 6 sweets. So to work out the amount of sweets, we do 17 times 6. Now we could do 7 times 6, which is 42, 10 times 6, which is 60. So add the two together, it's 102. So there are 102 sweets altogether. Now this question doesn't look like it gives us an awful lot to go on to answer it. However, it does give us enough. Remember, we're looking for an expression for the area of the triangle, so we're not looking for the actual number. We're looking for something like 5x squared or something. Okay, so the most important thing to realise at the start is that m is the midpoint, and we need to start labelling the sides. So if the total height is 24x, then this bit here will be 12x, and this bit here will be 12x, because m is a midpoint. Now, second most important thing to realise is it's a square. So the base and the height of the square are going to be equal. Therefore, it's going to be 24x across the bottom here. And we've used up an x at the top left bit, so we're going to have 23x left over. Okay, now, the way of doing these questions is you work out the area of the whole thing, okay, so the whole square. That's a dodgy looking square. But anyway, and you remove the bits that you don't want. Now, the bits I don't want is that top triangle there, this bigger triangle here, and then the bottom triangle here. Okay, and I can label them A, B, and C. Okay, now I'm going to work out each of the triangles. So triangle A I'm going to start off with. So the area for triangle A is half times the base, which is x, times the height, which is 12x. Now x times x is x squared, and half of 12 is 6. That's going to be 6x squared. Triangle B, the area is going to be half times the base, which is 23x, times the height, which is 24x. So we know it's going to be x squared again, so the two x's, but I just need to do 23 times 24 times a half, or I can half 24 to make 12 and then times by 23, which is going to be 276x squared. Triangle C, okay, so same thing again, half times the base, which is 24x, times the height, which is 12x. And again, it's a very similar question to the one before. So we're going to do x times x, which is x squared, and we're going to do half times 24 times 12, or I could halve the 12 and then 12 times 12, sorry, half the 24 to make 12. 12 times 12 is 144. Okay, so the total area, so total triangles, is going to be 6x squared plus 276x squared plus 144x squared. So I'm going to add up all the bits we don't want, okay, which is 426x squared. Okay, so the bits we don't want is 426x squared. Now the total area is going to be the width of the square times the height of the square. Okay, so square area equals 24x times 24x. So the x and the x make x squared, and I've not left enough room there, and 24 times 24 is 576. Okay, so the shaded area is going to be the total square area, which is 576x squared. Take away the bits we don't want, which is 426x squared. So 576, take away 426, which is 150. x squared. So my answer is 150 x squared. Okay, so this question looks quite simple, but actually it's going to take a bit of time to sort out. So first thing I'll do is do a little sketch. I'm going to do it up here. Since the y's are mainly negative, or in fact are negative, both negative, I'm just going to show the bottom of the graph. So at point 7, we're at minus 17, which I'm going to say is here. It's a sketch, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And at point 19, we're at minus 11, which I'm going to say is here. Okay, this is called line AB. Now we're asked for the perpendicular bisector. Now perpendicular means it's going to hit that line at right angles. Bisector means it's going to cut it right down the middle. So I'm going to start off at the middle of the shape and draw a quick sketch there, like that. Okay, I'm going to call this M here, and I'm going to call this line C, just so I can reference it in my working out, and it makes it a bit clearer. Now, there are two things I need to find out to find out the equation of point C. I need to find the gradient of point C, and I need to find the y-intercept. The gradient is going to be the first thing I'm going to have to find, and then I can work out what the y-intercept is, and then write the equation of line C. So, two things I need to work out for line AB is the gradient. So the gradient is going to be change in y over change in x. So the change in y is minus 11 take away minus 17, and the change in x is 19 take away 7. Okay, so we've got minus 11 and then effectively plus 17, which is 6, divided by 19 take away 7. Okay, 19 take away 7 is obviously 12, so 6 divided by 12, which is a half. So the gradient of that is going to be a half. Okay, next I need to find the midpoint, because we know that that's also a point on line C. Okay, so the midpoint is going to be the average of the x's, so 7 plus 19 over 2, and then the average of the y's, so minus 17 plus minus 11 over 2. So we're basically just finding the halfway points. Now, obviously 7 plus 19 is 26, divided by 2 is 13, but you might have just noticed that 13 is halfway between 7 and 19. Same with the others. Obviously, we could do the same thing. Halfway between the two of them is going to be minus 14. Okay. Now, you might be wondering, well, why did we find the gradient of line AB? Well, perpendiculars have a kind of weird connection where if you multiply both their gradients, it equals minus 1. Now, the way we use this is to convert a gradient to a perpendicular gradient. We do two things. We find the reciprocal of the gradient and we times it by minus 1. So to find the gradient of line C, what we're going to do is flip it. So the reciprocal of half is 2 and times it by minus 1. So it's going to be minus 2. Now, a way of checking that is if you multiply the two gradients together, you should equal minus 1, which a half times minus 2 is minus 1. So we've got the gradient. Now we know that the formula for the equation of line C is y equals mx plus c. We actually know the gradient and we know a point on that line, which was the midpoint of line AB. So we're going to feed in the coordinates. So it's minus 14. We know what the gradient is, minus 2. I'm going to put this in brackets, times the x coordinate, which was 13, plus c. And we just solve this to find out what c is. So minus 14 equals, and that's going to be minus 26, plus c. I'm going to add 26 both sides. And if this is on the calculator, then obviously always use your calculator to be sure. So it's going to be 12 equals c, or c equals 12. So therefore the equation is in the form y equals mx plus c. It's going to be y equals minus 2x plus 12. Okay, there's quite a few different ways of doing this question. I'm going to do this with a tree diagram, but you don't need to use a tree diagram for this question. I just find it a lot easier. So we're going to first of all understand that when you take two tiles, you can't take two tiles. You take one and then another one. Okay, so you move away from this idea of being able to take two. You can't. You take one and then you take another one. So the first pick can either be an 8, a 10, or an 11. So it's an 8, a 10, or an 11. And then the next pick, well, if you pick an 8, you can pick another 8, a 10, or an 11. If you pick a 10, you can only ever pick an 8 or an 11, because there's only one 10. And then 11, you can pick any of the three again. Okay, so with 8, you can pick another 8, 10, 11. With a 10, you can pick an 8 and 11, and that's 8, 10, and 11. Okay, now the most important thing we realise is let's work out which outcomes will end up with the second tile. Okay, and we should probably label this. This is the first tile, and this is the second tile. So which outcomes end up with her having a larger second tile? Well, this outcome here, 8 and then 10, 8 and then 11 will. If you pick a 10, then you can pick an 11, and that's larger. And if you pick an 11, you can't get a larger second tile. So there's three outcomes you can get with this, with the second tile being larger: 8 and 10, 8 and 11, and 10 and 11. Okay, next we need to work out the probabilities. Well, all of the first probabilities are going to be 1 out of 7, because there's 7 tiles. Okay, so the chance of picking 8 is 2 out of 7, because obviously there's 2 8s. 1 out of 7 for 10, and then 4 out of 7 for 11. Okay, next, if you picked an 8, then there's only 6 left, and there's 1 10. So that's going to be 1 over 6. And I'm only going to be working out the fractions of the ones I'm interested in. So 8 and then 11. So if you picked an 8, there's still 4 11s left, but there's only 6 tiles. And finally, if you pick a 10, then there are 4 11s still, and there's 6 in total. Now, we work out the probabilities by multiplying the lines we went down. So let's have a look and see what lines we're going down for the first one. So we're going 2 over 7, and then 1 over 6. So it's going to be 2 over 7 times 1 over 6, times the tops times the bottoms. Okay. Next line, we're going to do same line down here, but this time we go down here. So it's going to be 2 over 7, but this times 4 over 6. So that's going to be 8 over 42. And the final line, we go down the 10, and then we go down the 11. So it's going to be 1 over 7 times 4 over 6. Which is going to be 4 over 42. Now, whenever we've got multiple outcomes, and it can either be this one, or this one, or this one, we add them together. Okay, so the probability is 2 over 42 plus 8 over 42 plus 4 over 42. So 2 plus 8 is 10, plus 4 is 14, so it'd be 14 over 42. And if you cancel that down, 14 over 42, you can half top and bottom, half top and bottom, and then I think you can divide them by 7, so you get 1/3. So the answer is 1/3 chance. Okay, so this looks like it's a kind of quadratic question, but it looks a bit of a mess. There's a really easy first step to sort this all out, and that's to times everything by y squared. So just times literally everything in the equation by y squared. So 5 over y squared times y squared just leaves 5. And here we've got 7, and in fact I'm going to write this as a fraction still so we can see it a little bit clearer. So we've times that by y squared, but we've not really dealt with it yet. And we've got minus 3y squared equals 0. Now the y at the bottom and one of the y's at the top cancel. So we end up with 5 plus 7y minus 3y squared. And since we'll use the quadratic formula on this, it's probably easier I put it in order. So that would be minus 3y squared plus 7y plus 5 equals 0. So we've got to find out what a, b and c are. A is the number before the y squared, which is minus 3. B is the number before the y, which is 7. And c is the number on its own at the end. Then we're going to use the quadratic formula, okay, which is x equals minus b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Okay, so I'm just going to type that all into my calculator. It's a lot easier doing this than going through. I'm going to do plus first, and then I'm going to go back and change that. So minus brackets 4 times minus 3 times 5, close brackets over 2 times minus 3. Press the equals, and I've got an answer of minus 0.57338, blah blah blah. To 2 decimal places, that's minus 0.57. I'm going to go back on my calculator and change that plus to a minus. And it also equals 2.9067, blah blah blah. So that's going to be 2.91 to 2 decimal places. And so the trick with this is just convert it into something y squared plus something y plus something equals 0. I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you really liked it, click like. If you really liked it and want to see more, click subscribe. All these questions are on our website, onmaths.com. So if you go to onmaths.com, go to Steam and Questions, you can have a go on this paper yourself. Obviously the numbers change like everything on OnMaths, so you can keep trying it again and again until you get full marks. Thank you very much.